Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Timothy Ferriter. Timothy Ferriter was recently found guilty for aggravated child abuse. His wife Tracy is going to be going to trial next. Timothy Ferriter had a room built inside of his garage where he kept his adopted adolescent son. This was actually the second time he'd done this. Originally, he'd built one in Arizona and then again in Florida. He kept it locked from the outside, and his son was even required to use the bathroom in a bucket inside the room. Before we get started, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to let you know that I have been sick for the past week, so if you regularly watch my videos, I haven't been releasing any, but I should get back to my normal pace very, very soon. I also wanted to remind you that this is not a psychological evaluation. I'm providing opinions based on publicly available information on his behavior and his body language. Last thing before we get started is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be looking at today is Timothy Ferriter through various phases of the trial. Let's just jump right in on day one. We're going to start with getting a little bit of a baseline of his behavior. Right now, the judge is talking to the jury, so I just want you to get a feel for what he's like.
If you do take notes, don't get so involved in the note-taking that you lose focus on what is being said from the witness stand. If those have been in college or high school, you can remember those times.
So one thing you're obviously going to notice is that he sits very, very still. He has a high level of control. You can see the way that his hair is done. It's very clean. He's very clean shaven. He's somebody that shows a lot of outward control with his appearance. And this is a lot of what we're going to see during this trial. Now, I want you to keep in mind, if you watch the way he looked around, he didn't even move his head to look around. Like, he just uses his eyes to look around. So he really is someone with a high level of control. This is what I'm talking about right here.
So involved in the note-taking that you lose focus on what is being said from the witness stand.
As you can see, he's literally not even moving his head at all to look. He's just moving his eyes. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it gives us some idea of how much control he has over his external appearance.
If those have been in college or high school, you can remember those times where some of us tried to write down each and everything the professor or teacher said.
So now we're going to move on to things that are more substantial, but right now you're getting an idea that his baseline is very, very still and controlled. Now let's watch just a minute of him reacting to the prosecution.
It's because a child has behavioral issues. We're here today because of the actions of Tim Ferriter towards his son.
So all you're really getting from him are some mouth twitches, but I want you to think about this. This trial is truly about someone who wants to be in absolute control, who kept a child in a box, for lack of a better term, in his garage, kept him locked in there, controlled the lights, controlled what he would eat, controlled how he could use the bathroom. And so what we're seeing right now is someone who is absolutely focused on control of himself. Watch this again. You're going to see very little.
Today, because of the actions of Tim Ferriter towards his son.
And so the way that I interpret the little mouth movement that he had is that he's probably trying to inhibit any actual movement. That looks like he's trying to limit his movements.
They were ongoing, they were intentional, and they were criminal.
All right, thank you, Ms. Coakley. Is defense ready for an opening? Ms. Murad, you're going to handle it? You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So there you saw him taking a big breath as the defense is going up to talk. So he is feeling more than he's showing. He's taking a deep breath because your heart starts to pump harder when you're feeling excited, when you have adrenaline going through your veins, or when you're nervous. And so you need more oxygen. So that's why he's taking that big breath in. So he is feeling something, but he's very, very good at not showing it. Watch what I'm talking about right here.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And also now he's starting to blink a little bit more. So I guess he's eager to get the defense talking, eager to see how he reacts to it or see how the jury reacts to it.
It is for very much lack of a better term, is wired this way. It is a function of brain development.
Watch how much he's blinking. To me, that suggests that it's actually stressing him out to watch the defense talk about all of this, more so than it did the prosecution, interestingly enough.
Is wired this way. It is a function of brain development. And it's why the Ferriters continued to see patterns of behavior that would not stop.
Sustained.
And that happened while he was in
Counsel approach.
Now you see the counsel have to approach the bench a lot throughout this trial. All right, so you see him drinking water. That's oftentimes something we do beyond just being thirsty. It helps calm us down. Our lips are very full of nerves, so when we do things around the mouth, oftentimes it has a calming effect. So you're going to see him drink at times when he's very stressed.
Right, is that this was not some big secret life like the state is presenting. These people went to doctors. They went to therapists. The schools were emailing them back and forth about his behavior. They had family members.
Now you'll notice there, right there, they said that the school emailed about his behavior, and you see his mouth twitch. Oftentimes we associate this with contempt. Watch this right here.
Therapists. The schools were emailing them back and forth about his behavior. They had family members and friends see the room in Arizona. His intentions were not criminal. Dr. Rappa will testify based on...
All right, so when she says Dr. Rappa will testify, this is a sign of stress right here. When we purse our lips, it's because we're feeling stressed. So there's something about the idea of Dr. Rappa testifying that seems to cause him stress.
Dr. Rappa will testify based on her extensive experience and review of the records.
Now we're going to be watching his daughter provide some testimony. You're only going to hear her because they don't show her. But I'm going to show you something interesting with his body language. Watch this.
Who comes next? And then who's the last? How close in age are you to approximately? 2 years? Okay, so
you're noticing it blip. They cut out the names of all of the children. So if it blips a little bit, that's all that is.
2 years older? Roughly. Okay, so you're 17 now.
I want you to look at his body posture right now. His arms are basically to his sides. He has one hand out where he's writing. Now we're going to see how it shifts in 1 second.
Now I want to show you what has already been marked as evidence and shown to the jury. There's some pictures of your home. Okay? And so I want to see if you recognize any of them.
All right, now we saw a lot just there, but I want you to look at his body posture now. Now you see one hand, looks like his left hand, is propped up. So now he's doing something that's taking up more space. We see this as a dominant stance. Sometimes you think of a parent standing with their hands on their hips, or a police officer standing with their hands on their hips. This is very much that stance. We have not seen him take this position before, but as his daughter is talking, he's taking up a dominant position. That's very interesting.
Let's talk about it. Did that have any windows? No. Did it have a lock from the outside? Yes. Did it have any access from in the garage to a bathroom? No. Okay. And did it have lights inside?
And now you're seeing the blinking coming back. Once again, we blink a lot when we're feeling stressed. As she's talking about the box and about the way that things were set up, this is something that seems to be pretty clearly bothering him. Now let's listen to some testimony from Timothy Ferriter's adopted son and the victim in this case.
In school, were you close in grade to any of your siblings?
So now you're seeing him do a little bit more body language than we have throughout this trial. He's licking his lips, taking in these breaths again, but it looks like that he's trying to calm himself down as his adopted son's talking.
He's about 14 years old, seem right?
Yes.
Now, when you moved back to Florida, what time of year was that?
Now, one thing you're seeing him do, or at least it appears to me, that he's squinting, and sometimes we do this when we see or think about things that we don't like. So it's interesting that when his adopted son is on the stand, that he seems to be doing this quite a lot.
14 years old, seem right?
Yes.
Now, when you moved back to Florida, what time of year was that?
Somewhere in December.
Okay. So somewhere in December of the middle of your 8th grade year. Now, talk to me about when you moved to Florida. What was the house like?
The house, when I moved back to Florida in 2021?
Yes. December 2021?
Yes.
Yeah. How?
Once again, it's fairly remarkable how little he moves, even for something like drinking water. But it's interesting if you just watch how little he moves when he does this whole thing. Even when it comes to swallowing, like he just tries to stay very controlled and very still.
2021?
Yes. December 2021? Did the bed have a bed frame, or what was it like?
The bed had no frame, had no box spring. It was just a mattress on the floor.
Okay.
Now, this is interesting. So they're saying that the bed had no box spring or no frame. And it looked like you said that's not true. Now, it's interesting. During so many various things that have been alleged, this is the one thing that he protests, that the bed didn't have box springs, which to me seems like one of the milder, less consequential points out of all of the various things being talked about. Watch this right here.
Desk and a bed.
Did the bed have a bed frame, or what was it like?
The bed had no frame, had no box spring. It was just a mattress on the floor.
Okay. And mattress on the floor, what size of mattress was it?
Size of the mattress was a twin size.
To January of 2022, yes.
Yes. It had a normal lock on the handle and a deadbolt also.
Okay. Which side of the door was the normal lock on the handle?
The outside of the room.
Okay. And what about the deadbolt? What?
Also,
So as he's talking about the door, the deadbolts, all of those things that don't sound good, all of those things that make a weaker case for him. So once again, we're seeing him drink during these times because those are the moments that are most anxiety provoking, probably.
the outside of the room.
Okay. And what about the deadbolt? What?
Also outside the room.
So when you were inside the room, were you able to open the door if it was locked?
No. Yeah.
Was there ever instances of physical punishment in Arizona?
Once again, it's interesting just because this is fairly close in proximity. When he was disagreeing and saying that's not true earlier, he's not saying that now. That doesn't mean his adopted son is telling the truth, but it's interesting that he doesn't feel that this is something that he should verbally protest like he did the other thing.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
So
Right now, we're listening to the victim screaming and talking to himself into the Ring camera, but I wanted you to get a look at what his reaction's like. Absolutely nothing. And that's one of the things that I don't imagine he thought much about as he decided to take this position of showing little to no emotion. He shows no sympathy for this child, no empathy for what he's been through, no remorse for what happened. And that's something that seems to be very, very absent from his body language as he watches and listens to all these various Ring videos and all of these various clips that they've been showing in court. This is pretty much what you get out of him. You're not seeing emotion for somebody who hears somebody in pain or hears somebody struggling or where he has embarrassment because of the behavior that he engaged in. It's very interesting. Now we're going to watch the verdict being read.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged in the information. As to count 2, we find the defendant guilty of false imprisonment as charged in the information. As to count 3, we find the defendant guilty of neglect of...
So not surprisingly, he shows you almost no reaction. Now, someone like Timothy Ferriter is a bit of a paradox, but not an unusual one. He has a very high degree of control over his external emotion in situations like this. He's giving you almost nothing. However, he clearly doesn't have a great amount of control over his own emotion, considering how he acted out towards his adopted son, how he locked him up, how he would yell at him, how he would threaten him. All of those things. Those are not somebody who actually has real, legitimate control over their emotions. But in moments like this, he certainly knows how to move very little, how to appear stoic, all of those kinds of things. So I hope going over this helps you better understand some of his behavior and body language. If there's other cases you want me to analyze, please let me know. Like I said, I know I'm a little bit behind because I've been sick, but I'm ready to get right back in there and analyze any cases that you want to see. Before we get wrapped up, though, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.